structured language, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Okay, first of all, I'm going to load up the presentation. Because otherwise I'll just talk randomly. Is this it? No.
You have to make it full screen.
No, but this is not my computer, not my presentation. Oh, there it is. Alright. Kind of, yeah. Anybody know how to make this full screen? This full screen? No. Very well, very well. Yeah, fine. No. No. Again. View. Oh, there we go. Enter full screen. Awesome. Alright, so let's see, maybe just more like this. Alright, yeah. So first of all, I'll introduce myself. My name is Robin. I'm a student still. I study industrial management and software engineering, and I plan to specialize in artificial intelligence, but that's still some way off. Artistically, I do rap. I'm a rapper. I've been doing it for like 4 years now. But I only think since this year I've been doing it like with some seriousness. I'm German, but I grew up in Italy, so I speak Italian and German and English and French. But anyway, so that's much about me. So I've been coming here since the first time, which was, I don't know, what was it, October?
A long time ago. September.
September even, yeah. Because I met Martin and sorry, I forgot your name. And Ansel under pretty funny circumstances, but about that another time. So I saw all these presentations here, and I really liked them, and I wanted to do one myself. So first of all, 1.5 months ago, I just spoke to Martin and asked him, I want to do a presentation. You have a slot in the next one? He was like, no, and the one after the next one. Alright, so I got 1.5 months to prepare it. That's awesome. Let's do that. Suffice to say, I finished like 2 hours ago. Let's see then. So yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I said. Exactly. One night I came back from partying at Sisyphos, and I was so inspired, and I was like, oh, I have this awesome idea for a presentation. This was like 2 weeks after I had already set on doing it. And so I mailed him the title. It was a comparative analysis of the you've seen it. Anyway, of arts and structured language, of the communicative properties of arts and structured language. So yeah, it's not that I haven't been working on it at all. It's just that I had a very vague idea on what I wanted to do, and so I started again and again, and I erased everything, and I started again. So now we got into this version here. So this is going to be what I came to realize is kind of science fiction. You see, I'm going to be talking about biology, about psychology, about linguistics, about electronics, and I'm not an expert in any of those. I'm a student. I know basics about a bunch of stuff, and so and I'm really interested in popular scientific themes and stuff like that. But yeah, when I try to actually go in the full definitions with everything and try to make everything fit together, that would have been a work of a lifetime. So I decided I'd rather go with painting a picture, with making with presenting an idea. Basically, it's all a rather long introduction for a simple metaphor about art and language and communication. Yeah, exactly. I can see that. So let's see what the next slide is. I'm really curious. Exactly. So this was the idea I had at the very beginning. So I want to see that art the basic idea is that art can communicate in a different way than how just normal language, how structured language can communicate. Like, well, that was just the basic idea that I had. And so I need to elaborate on this. So I thought, okay, so what's art? Art would be something, I don't know, it depicts and expresses and evokes feelings. Well, language wants to communicate notions, to teach and to learn. Yeah, well, thing is, those definitions are shit. Those definitions, really, first of all, they didn't fit with like official definitions that I could find. I think I erased that part, I'm not sure. Anyway. So yeah, then came up something like, well, when is poetry art or is it language? Like, by this definition, like it can both convey information and it can evoke feelings or express feelings. Or, for instance, a documentary. I mean, it's mainly a communicative thing, but it can also be a piece of art and can express things and can evoke things. I mean, actually, that can be its main purpose. And in the end, I thought, well, this presentation also is not a purely communicative thing. I don't want to teach you something because I don't know enough to be in a position to teach. You didn't come here to be taught something. I want to communicate my thoughts. So let's see. Here's some definitions I found of arts and languages. I'll read them to you because I thought we would have a projector. So. Yeah, the arts.
Next time.
Don't worry. Don't worry. So, this is just from Wikipedia. The arts, because art is supposed to be just visual. In English, usually used for just the visual arts of like paintings and stuff like that. The arts represent an outlet of expression that is usually influenced by culture, and which in turn helps to change culture. As such, the arts are a physical manifestation of the internal creative impulse. That's a nice definition. I mean, I cut out like 90% of the definition because it went on for like another paragraph. But I like this. It's a physical manifestation of an internal creative impulse. Also, another definition that I wanted to bring in and that further complicated this thing was this definition by Scott McCloud, author of the book Understanding Comics. I don't know if anyone heard of it. I guess not. Anyway, he basically just gave as art the most broad definition you could give. So it's basically something, a human activity which doesn't grow out of either of our species' two basic instincts, survival and reproduction.
Can you repeat it?
Art is, as I see it, any human activity which does not grow out of either of our species' two basic instincts. Our two basic instincts being survival and reproduction. So basically, in his definition, there is a component of art in basically everything. Like we had, unfortunately, he's in the cook. Francesco, exactly. He made art with food, and so that's both survival and art. And I mean, if he could impress girls with it, it would also be reproduction, I guess. But art would be just like a metric, like a one axis along the continuum of how you can judge things. So it's just expression. It's expression. Now, language, I found out, may refer to three things. The cognitive ability to learn and use systems of complex communication. So a language is, when you know a language, you have this ability to understand a complex system of communication. To describe the set of rules that make up these systems. Or just the language, so just the things that can be said, the utterances that can be produced by language. So this starts off very complicated, right? So I decided instead to change meaning, to go a different route. I decided that I would give my own definitions of these words in the context of this speech. So I thought to to clarify why I can do it and how I can do that, I wanted to give a really short introduction on semantics, or semiotics in this case. I mean, this comic, well, I don't know, can you read it? Or I'll read it. Them's fighting words, mister. Unless of course, them's just semantics. Now, them's fighting words basically means what you just said means we're going to have to fight now. Them's fighting words. Well, of course, unless of course, that's not what it means. Semantics is the study of meaning. So, what does something mean? So, if I refer to, well, let's say here's an example of, I think it's a dog, yeah, of a dog. Like if I refer to a dog in the context of where there's an actual dog, I refer to one thing. If I refer to a dog in a context where there's a toy dog, I refer to something else. And well, generally, the concept is just that there is a thing. There's just something, some reality, some shared reality that everyone can see. That is just there. And there's the meaning, which is the experience of this reality. So everything produces a meaning in every person who perceives it. And in order for people to reference, to talk about, to communicate about anything in reality, they need some sort of symbol to link a meaning to a thing, because otherwise every meaning is just in our minds. So we need the symbols. But the thing is with semantics is semantics is basically the decision about what symbol goes with what thing. So what words describes what word describes what. So I decided that instead of going with trying to get the most correct definition of language and art, I would go with a different definition, which would be what I will call language, and I will stop doing this the next time I say it, will be descriptive communication. So descriptive communication would mean, well, what was written there, it's symbols that evoke meaning. So you give someone a symbol, and it's supposed to link them to a meaning. Whereas to remind them of something. Whereas what I will call art is expressive communication, which is communication that does not primarily intend to reference something, but it wants to create a meaning in people. It wants to make meaning. It uses, it creates things to evoke a meaning. To evoke a meaning which can be a feeling, anything that happens inside your brain can be a meaning. So just to give you a context, what do I mean by arts and language? Because that's the thing that kept me the most busy for the most time, because the other things are just things that I had thought about, and I just thought about some neat ways of saying them, but anyway, this is so my definition of language is just symbols that evoke meanings, while art is things that evoke meanings. Of course, there is basically nothing that is just pure art or just pure language. Like everything, when you speak, you create something. So it's not an either or thing. It's just
a component of
of two components of communication.
Of any communication.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you could think about other components of communication, like, I don't know, hedonistic communication, maybe just something you just do for pleasure or something like that, but that's not, I'm not going to consider that here. So, any questions so far? So, now, first of all, I want to be clear on the thing which I'm talking about. What thing is it that I'm referencing that inspired me to make this? And the thing is something that everyone needs to kind of understand by themselves. I brought an example, which would be a song that I made. it's pretty poorly produced, unfortunately, because I forced a producer to bring it out like the same day that we recorded it, because I just needed to get it out, because I couldn't. There were certain things that I just could not say in words. I couldn't say them tell them to anyone. I couldn't tell them to my therapist. I couldn't tell them to my mother, to my sister. I couldn't tell them to even the people I trusted the most. I just couldn't bring the words out. I couldn't find the right words. But then I had the idea. I'm going to write a song about it. Let's see. Then I'll see if this link works. Surprise, surprise! It doesn't. Well, that's okay because we have browsers.
Copy paste.
No, it's a hyperlink, but I'll just type it in.
You have to use an S in the beginning.
Ah, that's a good idea. Right.
Can be then the internet is a little bit slow now. Is it working?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Let's see.
Then try to deactivate the Wi-Fi. Reset always works, always.
Okay, let's see now.
Disconnecting.
Ah, all right.
Is it what?
Esatto.
Ah, ok.
Prova a usare Safari poi.
Right, yeah. Oh, this is not Safari.
No, prova, try with this one, maybe it works now.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's going. Wow.
And actually, just before the song starts, I put this image here for a reason. This is a sculpture by I think Ukrainian sculpture. It was at this year's Burning Man Festival in the US. It's called Love. It's basically it's got like two children trapped inside the cages of adults. Who just want to love, but the adults have all their problems and all, and so they remain caged inside. And this sculpture in turn inspired me to write the song, and it made me understand some things that they couldn't have understood, or that I hadn't understood by means of words or communication or talking. So. What is it? There we go. So.
Sometimes I hug myself, a lonely embrace. So much like I'm stuck with a hole inside my brain. And words can never plug it. No logic taught me how to say what I wanted. To live in the now, to just say fuck it. To see that there's no danger, to not be self-destructive, not hurt myself with anger. This is a cry for help from a child inside of me, trapped in a wire frame, made up of all my fears. I want to hug you all, I want to be caressed. I want love and I want sex. I know I have no reason to feel guilty about it, but still the child is drowning in the sea of doubting. I raise a helping hand, but do not ask for it. I feel so selfish and I think unaffectedness. Keep a smile on my lips, though I really want to kiss. Part of me's resistance, take no responsibilities, because if I did, my try could be a miss. I beat myself up about my perceived failure and forthwith refrain from ever trying again. My hands won't move the way I want them to. I can't bring my mouth to say the words I want to you. The only way that little Robin can try to break free is crying out these lines in the bosom of the beat. So please somebody help me escape from my cage. So please somebody tell me the way that I can change. Because the one you see is not the real me. Because the way I am is not the way I want to be.
Thank you, thank you.
Quite short to the point, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we recorded in one day. I wrote it in like 2 hours.
For real.
Sounds different, your voice, Dash.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm also got a sore throat right now, but I mean, there's like filters and stuff, you know. Enter full screen. Go. All right. In general, like how, like that's one example, like my personal example, how I was able to express things in an expressive way that I couldn't in a descriptive way. I couldn't describe my feelings, but I could try to evoke them somehow. And yeah, I mean that's general like thought like when a work of art that references a lot of things that has all this cultural influence on it can still evoke feelings when you have no idea of what it says. Like if you look at a page of text that you don't understand in a language you don't understand, it can't evoke anything. Or if you hear something or anything, like at least the purely descriptive part of it cannot reach you. Or if you don't understand the words, if it's too complicated or something. But a piece of art, an expressive piece of art, at least can evoke feelings even when you don't understand the references. Right. So I wanted to because I found it kind of hard to come up with examples. So I want to think of an example of this phenomenon of like where art could do something that language couldn't. Like, does it sound familiar to anyone, or is
Poetry.
Yeah, like
Poetry is like language that has to be taken in another level, not a descriptive level,
right,
a kind of a structure level.
right. Yeah, I know that, but I mean, like, can you personally relate to this? That's the question. Like,
What about, I mean, any music with lyrics in a language you don't understand
yeah,
can be still massively emotional. as
exactly.
well.
Yeah.
You don't need to understand the lyrics, but it to have
Exactly.
a huge impact. It doesn't even need to have lyrics sometimes.
Yeah,
Like electronic, a lot of electronic stuff.
yeah, exactly.
It's a language in itself.
Or classical. Or,
Yeah, totally.
Or like, I was also thinking of something like an abstract painting like this one, which I'm sure doesn't. Okay, no, it doesn't ever gush my feelings for me, but I think I can. It's nice, it's nice. But I mean, I just wanted to be clear that the thing that we're all kind of synchronized on the thing which I'm referring to, which is that just But yeah, there's kind of like there's two different channels. So there's a more and I would claim in a lot of cases it's a more direct channel sometimes. Like you can like if you hear that song in a foreign language and you get the whole you get the emotions from it. I mean, if you learn what it means and something, you get even more. Maybe it can be like an entirely different dimension for it.
It can have a reverse effect.
It can have a reverse effect, right? Yeah. Like if you thought, like if you think that some really shitty song had like a deep meaning, and then you learn it's fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, still, there's like a more direct thing that that's just instantly can be just without any any elaboration, without any thinking about it. And there's another part which can be which when you think about it, which when you like, for instance, I don't know, this painting, knowing what influenced the artist, knowing what they were trying to express with it, may completely change my perception of it. So I'm not saying that either way is better. That expressive or descriptive is either better or worse. I'm just saying, like, it's kind of like there's two different channels for it, and yeah, that's the thing in the diagram before. The thing, and I was trying to instill, give a meaning to this thing in your heads. Okay, so yeah, this is basically just another thing, kind of a source for like the ideas, kind of. It's a book just about thinking, and it's about fast and slow thinking. Like, you have this guy, Daniel Kahneman, won a Nobel Prize. He's a psychologist, and basically describes human thinking in using these two systems. You have system 1, that's your fast thinking, and system 2, that's slow thinking. So system 1 is just what happens all the time. It's any association. Like, yeah, I'll give you an example of it because I have prepared something. Exactly. So here's a few different things. First of all, this is something that the guy didn't write in the book, because I mean this is starting to be speculative, because yeah, it's evolutionary. Psychology is always a hard thing to prove anything. So basically, the idea is that you have the more basic parts of your brain, as you see, basically like this limbic system, which we share with basically all animals that have any kind of brain. So you have the part that can you zoom in this? Yeah, right. So you have the same part that's like responsible for just basic emotions, like just fear, even like crocodile knows what fear is. It can run away from something. A mouse knows it and all that. And also just basic association, like a crocodile can learn that trying to attack a hippo is not a good idea. What the main difference is here that we see in like between these animals here and primates, for instance, is the outer part, the cortex, frontal lobe, and prefrontal, and whatever, which is the part which is associated scientifically with which is associated with rational thinking, with what we would call the system 2, the slow thinking. Some examples of what is fast thinking. Fast thinking is basically just association. I mean, if I ask you what's 2 plus 2, you don't have to go in your mind and bring up like, okay, let's add 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, oh, that's 4. No, you just have an association right away. Or if you see a smiley face, like or a sad face, and you don't need to think about what kind of expression that is. That's a sad expression. That's clear, instant, almost no delay. Also, things that are very familiar, like a rat. You know that this is a rat. This is instantaneous. You don't need to think what it is. And now, slow thinking. It's pretty easy, I think. I mean, to understand. Slow thinking is something like, if I told you 350 divided by 7, you would have to, like, unless you're like some math genius, you would have to like go and calculate it in order to know that the result would be 45. Also, a more elaborate thing is like, what's the expression of this person? I don't know, like, that's the thing, you don't have a straight answer, you couldn't like give a straight answer, what's the expression? I'd say it's neutral.
Passion.
Yeah, for instance. Or you would know, unless you're a biologist or a monkey fan, that this particular monkey is called a rhesus monkey.
They're always using rhesus monkeys in examinations.
Alright.
It's a racist monkey.
Racist.
What you said?
Rhesus.
Right next to the Buddhist human.
Rhesus.
Yeah, it's human.
Yeah, so that's a racist monkey.
I think it's just preach your talk, hasn't
So, and basically just to explain, there's been this, it's called the reptilian or triune brain theory, where you basically just say, so the more basic part of your brain is just the same as with the others, and the same as like a reptile, and the more advanced functions are just the primate brain, while the reptilian brain is the less advanced one. It's not quite like that, because then you have something like an octopus, which can also think pretty well and has enough, and brain's completely different. So it's not very valid, but you may hear this at some point about a reptile brain. It's just the basic part, the instincts, the fast thinking, the fear, the emotion, stuff like that.
Does animal does not have fast thinking, slow thinking?
Well, actually, I'll give you an example on the next slide. And that's this. Basically, so we have some. I took just the most basic thing which could argue to be living, and that would be a virus. Like a virus has no reaction; it just does things. It just does the same thing. It's like, I don't know. I wouldn't even know what you. It's like a machine that just goes on, and whatever happens to it, it just tries to do the same things. It's more a mechanism than an agent. So there's no thinking at all.
Can you close this bouncing sky?
Yes. I would love
want
to.
read.
Why is this like this?
Close Skype, because someone wrote me.
It's degrading us to a virus now.
It's like his mother.
Oh yeah, right. Perfect. Thank you. I'm really reconsidering getting a Mac. Okay. Right. Then you have a single ant, which I was actually going to say insects, but then I read that bees, for instance, can memorize routes. They can memorize like entire like pollen collection routes. So I just took it as an example, a single ant. Ants communicate between them with chemical signals. So in a colony, they kind of can think, because one ant tried something and had a reaction to it and got a certain chemical out. And but a single ant will do the same thing every time. Like it doesn't learn from anything. It just reacts the same way to the same things every time. And you have something like...
So basically the colony works like a brain.
Yes, kind of. Actually, yeah. They kind of work like a brain. They're very efficient in some things. It's fascinating.
Different function, complexity.
I mean,
Like
with
a
ants,
single
you have to
part.
think of the colony as the organism itself, with
Yes.
functions.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
how they function.
Yes, but an ant outside of a colony is kind of like a red blood cell or something out of her body. It can't do anything. Right, then we have something like goldfish. Goldfish actually can remember things. Like there's a legend where they say, oh, they remember only 5 seconds, so they swim around the bowl, they already forgot it. But no, goldfish do remember things. There was a Mythbusters episode about it, where they test if you can train goldfishes to swim faster through obstacles, and you can.
I always thought they were like the shortest memory.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, actually they actually have a long-term memory. Yes.
It's illegal to keep them in glass bottles now.
Yeah.
It is.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in Japan they
50,
even have them in bags. don't they?
Oh, they also have to see at the Kermits, but
Like English in Asia.
so and yeah, then and then I skipped through a few other animals and I just said most humans have reasoning. I didn't know who to pick, so I took myself in a ridiculous outfit.
That's why the most is there.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, well, the goldfish can learn from external stimuli, we can not only learn from them, but we can simulate them, we can predict them, we can actually try to recreate something inside our brains, to make models of stuff, instead of just learning like, when this happens, do this. We can teach ourselves things, we can develop thoughts, which is actually a thing that most mammals can do to some degree. I mean, as we can see before here, they still, even like a rat has a small cortex, so it's not like they have no imagination at all. They do think in a way. So, and now for something different. So what I was thinking about is just a metaphor, which would be how we can try to answer this question of what's the difference between art, how does art and language, how do they communicate differently? How can you explain this way, this phenomenon? And so this is actually a thing that I have from university. This is a relatively simple processor, which, to give you an example of what it does, something comes in, it gets a certain code, like you have like a set of numbers, it gets, one of them is the instruction, and it gets instruction what to do with it. It does something with it, like it can add two numbers coming in, or it can subtract, divide, and a bunch of other things. It can do basically it can do basically what a calculator can do, and a bit more. And then it saves it in a memory slot, and does the next thing. And when you program it, basically what you do is you give it a set of instruction what to do with certain inputs. So with a processor, you can do whatever a computer can do. That's the basic unit of computation. That's what distinguishes a computer from any other machine, is that it's that you can program it to do things. When you take a more simple machine, or a simple fixed circuit, which would be something like this, like a simple light bulb. That's the most simple circuit that I could think of. Oh, I forgot finishing to write this. Interesting. I was so insecure because that's one thing where I was sure that a lot of people would know more about it than me. Anyway, so a light bulb is a very simple circuit. You just you either open, or the current is either open or closed, and after you pushed the switch, it's basically instantly, as fast as the current can travel, the light goes on. There's the same thing for, if say you take something like one of those dolls that can speak, like a toy that has just a little chip in it that can make it talk. You know what I mean, right? Like something basic that creates a noise. It's also just a circuit that just takes an input and makes certain noise of it. That's also something which doesn't need a processor. You don't need to program it. You make it once, then you make it a million more times, and something comes out. So this is what's the difference between a circuit, a fixed circuit, and a processor. Now, first of all, a processor is made out of circuits. That's one thing. So, the same way that the complex part of our brain is basically is made of the same neurons that make up the other part of our brain. So the basic systems are the same. And the difference here is that a fixed circuit does one thing, basically. If it has more buttons, it does as many things as it has buttons or combinations of buttons. And it does it really quickly. It takes, once you have it set up, from the moment you push the button to the moment whatever the machine is supposed to do, supposed to happen, it takes just the time that the electricity travels through the wires. That's a really quick thing. Now, in a processor, you instead have, for every single step, so if you need to do a multiplication, this is not entirely accurate, it's an example. If you do a multiplication, you can't just for a big number, you can't just do it with like 32 wires if you want to multiply like billions with each other. So you have to go through the process a bunch of times, and the more complicated it is, the longer it takes. I mean, if you've ever tried to render a film, which has to basically go through every single bit which that corresponds to that has an information for a pixel, it has to go through each and every one of them. So it's a very complex function, but that it's a function that would also be, well, I would say impossible to do with any chip that I know of. I mean, sure you do. Yeah. So basically, in short, you have the processor, which can do all kinds of things, as anything you can program it to, but it takes as long as it needs. As long as it gets, it takes longer the more complicated the task is. A circuit instead is fixed, it's there, and it does this task basically instantly. But, and here's an interesting consideration that what, for instance, makes what you can do with a light switch that you will never be able to do with a processor, is you can give it an infinite number of different amounts of power. So you can, when you dim a light, right? That's analog. The amount of positions that you can theoretically turn that thing is basically infinite. So you have this thing which is quick and immediate, and simple in a way, but it can also adapt. It has a dimension which the other one doesn't have. The processor just has one on and off, and anything digital just has on and off. So it can do all kinds of things, but it also needs to have single steps. You can't make it infinitely small. Whereas with something like an analog switch, or just with something where you just have an analog quantity, which is in this case current, you can do things that a computer can't do. Like, for instance, when you take an analog synthesizer. I mean, today we have computers that can do incredible things. I mean, we have supercomputers which can do even more incredible things. One day we'll have quantum computers, which I can't even imagine right now. But even then, they still wouldn't be able to do what an analog synthesizer can do. You can't. You still need a finite number of spaces to fill the information in. You can't just reduce it as much. You can't just go as fine as you like. So much that basically every setting you have is unique. You will never have that exact setting again. Well, with the other one, of course, you can.
This is the heard also about distortion. Like a digital distortion. It's still a calculation that is quantized.
Exactly.
While a real one is continuous.
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean.
On any parameter.
Yes.
Any color of. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and that's. I also was kind of inspired by. I think it was you had.
On the other hand, the more distorted the signal is, the more it is digital.
Yeah.
What do you mean? How do you mean that?
Because it's kind of like a square wave. So I don't want to interrupt too much.
No, this is the
distortion.
Point of
Distortion is kind of like a thing that is very much bound to the processor's ideology of like reducing the elements to a certain degree, rather than having a certain roundness of the curve growing to like a Fourier transformation would do. So a distortion is always kind of like in principle a distortion is kind of like the oversaturation of the system, which kind of like happens all the time with digital systems. They are like all the time oversaturated. Like in this example of the light bulb, you can use every current that is lower than the sustainability of the light bulb, but you can't use a current which is higher than the light bulb could sustain.
Right.
In digital systems, it's the opposite. All the current which is flowing through digital systems always need to be like 100%. There's nothing over 100% and there's nothing under 100%. So distortion is actually like the oversaturation of the system, which is like very digital in its way. So the harshest
same kind of
distortion
process,
it's like a really very squarish wave. You know, like very defined distinctions between the states, like which is very not analog in a way.
Right.
So
But yeah, exactly. I mean, that's actually what I was hoping for, because I'm almost finished, and I'm kind of hoping for my input, because I want to learn. This is really interesting. This is a really interesting.
This would work only with distortion, because distortion is this process. But if we take any other analog effect, for example.
No, also if you think about a piano, like with the piano, like the analog transformation, the Fourier transformation is still like super lacking in the way of representing all the aspect that the natural instrument has, like all the rounds.
Okay.
But a distortion is at least for me, a distortion is kind of like a moment where it's actually like a distortion is a technological fact. It's not something that is like, there is nothing like distortion naturally. There's no such thing as like a super analog distortion, because distortion is kind of like bound to the availability of a certain system, like a light bulb. You can distort or destroy a light bulb, but you cannot really destroy the being of a panda bear. The panda bear is extinct or not, but you can't distort the panda bear. That's just
Can disturb it.
Monsanto would like to have a word with you.
Well, genetically maybe. That's a new sort of distortion.
Yeah. So exactly. So that's why I left the part. An analog sync can be seen at, because I knew people know more about it than me. So everything was planned. Okay. Let's see what the next is. Exactly. We're almost at the end now. And yeah, this is my comparative analysis. The language is kind of like a program. It's formidably flexible, and again can adapt to completely new situation by combining symbols that stand for things.
Can you say it again, sir?
Yes. Language is like a program for our brains, like a programming language for the processes part of our brain. It uses a finite amount of symbols to build incredibly to build new things really fast. Like you can summon an idea in someone's mind with like a few sentences, a new concept, which like you can only do with the rational part of the brain. You cannot imagine something completely new by just association. And exactly, so it is formidably flexible, and it can adapt to completely new situations by combining symbols that stand for things being reality. Our conscious system, the system 1, the slow system, it can build an entire world out of languages. You can build you can build an entire world. You can build a completely new idea, a new language. You can build all kinds of stuff. And that's a formidable thing about descriptive language there. You can describe things that don't exist yet. You can use it to build new things. Well, art is a bit like an analog input. It may not be as clear and as easily communicable as language. So for instance, like the meaning of a painting, the meaning of a song, the meaning of a poetry might be interpreted completely differently from how the author intended it. It might like take years of study to even understand what they were trying to do. It's not as immediate as description would be, as a description of something would be, but it can reach depths and nuances of our being for which no symbol exists, because we're a finite amount of symbols. Since there is infinite graduations or infinite scales of whatever, you know what I mean. different infinite space between the single things, you can't have a word for every one of them.
Continuous when you have continuous.
Exactly. Exactly. You have a continuum which you can't have a word for every one of them. But you can try to express it. You can try to find exactly what causes this feeling in you, or what expresses this feeling for you, and so bring it to other people in a way that you couldn't by referencing things that they already know. You couldn't by trying to evoke memories of theirs or something like that. You can only try to go the direct route, the circuit. And yeah, that was the comparative analysis. That's basically, almost finished. And to sum it up, I have what I wanted to say. What I hope came through, and but in case it didn't come through, I'm just going to say it's clearly. Just anyway. First of all, I think the bit about semantics. It's just something that I always wanted to just express to someone. I mean, most people already know it. Most people know what the basis of it, know what semantics are, or even just intuitively you understand that a word doesn't have a fixed meaning, that a word is just something that's supposed to stand for something. But a lot of times, especially like in discussions and stuff, people tend to forget that. Like you say, hey, you said that, you must have meant that, for instance. Or, no, this word has this meaning, this is the only meaning it can have, or something like that. There's so many times people argue about something where I'm just, come on guys, just disagree. Okay, you have different definitions and skip this part. So that's just one thing I would like to, I wanted to communicate that basically, yeah, that like every other thing in the universe, words, concepts and thoughts do not exist in a vacuum, but only make sense relative to other things. They can never be fixed and absolute, because everything flows. I hope you like my ideas, my thoughts, my speculations. Maybe I sparked some new associations, maybe some insights, maybe even some inspirations in some of your worlds. And I hope that I have learned many things for you, and I have learned some things. So, thank you.
Man, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, please.
So, you said before that communication is made by two parts, right? One is descriptive and the other one is a thing.
Well, no. What I say is I'm going to look at two aspects of communication in this speech. Communication is also like the definition for communication is this long. It's like, because there's this. I mean, most basically it's just the sharing of meaning between individuals, but it can mean so many other things. So I would say it has just two parts now. Or did I answer the question right?
The question, that was the beginning of the question.
Right.
Last part was
What's the question?
a good piece of art. How much descriptive and how much of the rest should have. And of course the answer should be kind of depends.
Yeah, to give it
And the final question would be, if it depends, why it depends?
Well,
And what it depends.
I would say it depends
Your
on the.
sexuality.
Yeah,
For Martin Patiño, for sure.
Yeah,
that's definitely a factor. I mean, everything is a factor. It depends on the. It comes from just the basic randomness of the universe. Like everyone is just a collection of molecules that kind of follow the same structures, but I think that nothing exists twice, nothing exists two times, and every single moment is irrepeatable, irreplaceable. So that's why it depends. That's why something that might be like beautiful for me, that might just bring me to tears, might make someone else feel disgusted, or something which I find like just boring and completely and unremarkable might be like someone's life purpose. So I would say that's why it depends, because people are different.
So in a way, when we share the same feeling, we're actually still extremely away from each other or an idea. Yes.
Yeah, sure. We are. I mean, we are expressing something. We try. I mean, we're trying to do
Make
something.
sense out of it.
Exactly, to make sense of things, to kind of explore, to see new things, to experience things, to learn, to teach, to live, to love, and so on and so forth.
I also had another one. There was he said language can build an infinite world.
Can build an infinite world, yeah.
Yeah. And I believe that language cannot build an infinite world, but you cannot imagine what's outside our infinite. Just
Well, I don't mean
Only
mathematical
infinite.
infinite.
yeah, no, it was kind of a thing that I wanted to add rather than
Yeah,